the other day, so why are these still here?
Where
And
are
she
Mr.
figured out
Chairman?
with accidents because they don't know that they're not filed. I don't know what.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Ogdensburg Bridge Authority board meeting for Thursday, December 13th. Our first session today will be about our budget process and budget hearing. So I'll move that to start at this time. Wade, I'll let you direct us with this and we'll go forward.
Certainly, I'd like to refer to the memo that went out December 7th. A couple of key points to point out about this budget before we get into the specifics of it. On the revenue-related side, the authority revenue projections are $6 million, and that's predicated on a couple of things that you need to be aware of: depressed economic conditions. However, it does assume a 2% increase over the 2012 estimated levels, which excludes wind turbine revenue. On the expense side, the authority is projecting expenses of approximately $4.3 million for the year. That is a 3% increase over where we think we'll end up in 2012, excluding the wind turbine expenses. And they're driven by increased personnel costs, increased maintenance costs, and bridge repairs. A couple other relevant expense-related points: salaries, wages, and benefits are $2.65 million, or 44% of authority revenue. And the proposed budget adds an accounting manager and a grant manager position to support growth and capital needs at the authority. For net operating profit, net operating profits are above current year levels, which excluding the wind turbine impacts at $1.7 million. Net operating profit generators would be the bridge at $1.8 million, the industrial park $128,000, and the marine terminal at $28,000. Segments generating net operating losses are the airport at $281,000 loss. Debt service, we're going to be able to generate, as I mentioned, $1.7 million in net operating profits for the year, and that will fully cover our debt service requirements. On the capital plan side of the house, we have a capital plan proposed for $15.5 million for the upcoming year. The authority's portion of that would be $1 million for our contribution. The $1 million would be funded 62% through cash generated by operations. The remaining $383,000, or 38%, is funded on drawing through reserves. And there's a special note that we'll talk about when we get to the capital plan. That $383,000 is important because there are two projects that, if we're successful in obtaining a $1.5 million grant, would require us to spend $383,000 out of savings. Other than that, the capital plan, if we were unsuccessful in getting those grants, the capital plan would be 100% funded out of operations. Outside sources remain significant components of the authority's overall capital plan. And as far as what's generating cash and what's not, for cash-related generation, that's the bridge at $816,000. Cash users are the airport at $759,000, the marine terminal at $293,000, and the industrial park at $145,000. And you can start to see this on page 1 of your packet, where you can see a comparison between the 2014 and 2013 year budgets. Again, kind of hanging out in the top category for now, over the far right column. You can see the $6 million expense over on the top right, the $6 million in revenue, the $4.3 million in expense, an operating profit of $1.7 million, as I pointed out, debt service $1.1 million, leaving cash available for capital items $617,000. Capital projects, which total $1 million, that's the authority's contribution to the capital projects, would result in a cash flow of negative $383,000. And you can see to the left of that how that shapes up for the marine terminal, the industrial park, the airport, and the bridge.
Wade, help me with this a little bit, and I kind of try to digest this 30-page or 40-page document. It's like in the whole logistical type of things, all salaries and expenses, whatever. But I was trying to understand the expense line for each, the terminal, industrial park, airport, bridge, whatever. I mean, so, explain how that's all calibrated into those numbers. I mean, that sounds like a general statement, but it's explicit too, but, I mean, I know you got, let's just specifically take the airport, because it's a loser.
Okay.
Okay, so we got $504,000 in expenses. Explain some of the expenses and how it's built in.
That would include wages, wages and benefits.
Wages and benefits.
Wages and benefits, we have one person that works at the airport. So that one person does not make the wages, all of the wages, so we allocate a portion
Yeah,
of other people's wages according to what we think they, or have seen through, surveys and so on about where people spend their time, and allocate accordingly. And that allocation's in here, we'll get to.
yeah, I know later on it
Yeah.
explains all the percentages and how you
Mhm.
calibrate each
Right.
category, whatever, but.
Then there's maintenance expenses at the airport, which would include plowing the runway, mowing the grass, those kind of things. In utilities at the airport, office supplies, all those things.
Okay, so
That generates all of those expenses. And again, we will see those in detail as we go through the 46 pages.
yes, I know, okay, I'm gonna get back to that, so but I
Okay.
just wanted to.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll try to remember to point those out when there's an allocation.
Yeah. Now, the other thing, we're early in this whole process, whatever, and I talked to Wade the other day about it, and how does the railroad play into the calculations and things that we have here?
The railroad is all found within the marine terminal budget.
Okay, and then people need to know that,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So where's
where
your
the-
railroad?
Where is the railroad right now, for, I think, consolidating purposes of the budget, I include them with the marine terminal.
Okay, thank you. Wade, I'll let you continue on, I know you got.
No, that's fine. Basically, that's exactly, how things are calculated. The only other thing I would add on the airport, there are some specific expenses like, law enforcement, things like that, that are also reflected in
Get back to
those
that later,
expenses.
Well, I guess if we're gonna be open there as we move through this, and it is, obviously in our process, we always look on the revenue side, how can we get better there? We also look on the expense side, whatever, how can we, cut into that? I mean, I guess when we get done through here, I guess you're gonna say to us exactly what we can do or can't do, and what we need to do, and I guess then I'll talk about the grants manager and the other type of things, and the things that we're talking about that can help us change that formula of the way it's being done.
I think, the only thing I would say differently than what you said, Sam, is that I don't think we'll tell you what you can do and can't do. We will tell you what we think would result in actions that you take.
I think that's better, yeah, that's a better way of saying it, I agree with that, yeah.
And the other thing, just as a disclaimer, anything that's on here is tentative. You as board members have the duty and responsibility to say, yes, no, change it, that's entirely within your realm. So I guess I'd like to jump right over to page 2. And Fred has done a wonderful job here of putting together the revenues and expenses and referencing page numbers and everything else. I would like to turn it over to you, Fred, to walk us through the revenue and the expenses, please.
Okay. As you can see at the top is the revenue, and the first line is the bridge toll revenue. Now, we have two choices here. We can just go down this sheet and then follow through, or we could go to page 5 and look at that. What's your choice?
How you wanna present it?
I think I'd like just to go down this page and then just
Okay.
go page by page,
Okay.
and then, remembering that you can always refer back to this page and see where that
Okay.
number, where it shows up in here. But if you do have any questions specifically as we go along, we definitely can go look at.
I know you stayed awake last night preparing this, so.
Yeah. So, the bridge toll revenue is, 2,415,000 in this budget. Last year's budget was 2.3, and I'm projecting that this year's will be, 2,332,000. And that was before November. November, you will see when we get to that part of the meeting later, was an excellent month. And so that projection, you know, if I was to do that over, I would increase that. But that's up about 4.5% from last year's budget and 3.5% from the estimate. GSA rent and fee income, 1.2 million. The difference between that and last year's is the fact that I included the revenue from the border, not the border patrol. The other rent income, that includes the industrial park, the rent in this building, rent at the airport. All of those rents rolled up into that number, and we will see all of those in detail when we move along farther in the budget. Port activity, 700,000. That's down from last year's budget, but up from this year's estimate. And this year's estimate, of course, does not include the wind turbine project.
That includes it, or doesn't?
The one with the asterisk, estimated actual, does not. And I put that in there so that there would be a good comparison from the budget, the 2013 budget and the 2014 budget, because the number from the port activity is really skewed by the wind turbine project, and if you haven't got another one to compare it to, I did that.
Well, that way it's apples to apples.
Apples to apples, right. Warehousing, down a little bit from last year's budget, but up from this year's projection. Aviation fuel sales are really going strong right now for a number of reasons, but the big reason being that we are fueling the medical helicopter with jet fuel.
Do you think that's gonna continue?
Well, I had a little smaller number in here until I read that the Potsdam did not get permission to put in the,
Okay.
Nobody will come up with the money, they want somebody else to bring in it's about $60,000 to put the tank in,
right,
and then you gotta run it,
right.
so.
So right after that, I upped the projection. I did have that a little bit lower.
Is that just one copter?
That's, boy, I don't think so. I think they have 2 or 3, yeah. And I think they are fueling other places too, but they are fueling them here a lot.
That's encouraging, because we went so many years trying to figure out why aren't we selling any of this
Yeah.
fuel?
Right.
Now, how are they fueled? I mean, it sounds corny, whatever. I mean, a plane kind of gets close to whatever, and how is the helicopter? How do they do it?
I don't know, Steve.
They come in and self-fuel.
They what?
They come in and.
No, I mean, how close to the tank and stuff, I don't know how, I mean, how.
Just, they land right where, we've got a line there, and it shows there, and they just land right there, and our hose is, I don't know, it's probably 50 feet of hose that
Oh, okay, all right,
they can come out, and then they just use the system and take off.
yeah.
But no, as far as what you're talking about, I agree.
Yeah, I
with
mean,
you.
you're either there or
No,
that's
you're not
it.
just out in the middle, and then,
Yeah.
Do they have a credit card or something?
yeah. Yeah,
Is it our credit card or theirs?
they're set up now, aren't they? Right?
Yeah, yes, we have,
So-
yes. We have a credit card, it's through Ascent, it's been out at the airport for quite a while. But
Well, tell me about this credit card. I'm serious, I don't know what it is. I come in and I fuel up my jet and I got that card. Now, is that billed to somebody or to you, or what's the
Oh,
word?
it's billed just like if you fueled your truck at the gas station and
We
you put
have
it in the
a credit
tank.
system.
It's, we have the credit card system there just like that.
Card reader.
American Express or,
It's, they'll take any of the cards, but our credit card processing company is called Ascent. Then we pay Ascent. I mean, we get money from Ascent, I'm sorry.
So they
We
use
get-
their own card and.
Yeah, they use their own card.
And if you-
Ascent is the
If you use a Phillips
merchant.
branded card, you get discounts on your card, so if it,
so they don't have a card to fill up with 100 gallons and then you turn around and bill them for 100 gallons?
No.
it's already.
So it's an
taken care of.
automatic Visa, Master Charge,
Yes.
whatever we can take out.
Yes, right.
And that's the way we advertise for anybody that sells fuels.
Right.
And don't kid yourself, these guys know if it's a Phillips card and you can save money, that they probably got those cards too, if it's a Phillips tank.
So anybody can come in here anytime and get fuel.
Yes.
Okay, no,
Aren't we
I
buying
didn't-
the fuel from Ascent also?
Branded, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That assures our fuel supply.
Yeah.
So we're not going around the market. Granted, we can be locked in at a higher, slightly higher price, you can't go, but you've got all that support, they support all of our computer stuff. And then also you're pretty assured of a continuous, finding fuel in the size that you want, because you're not saying, well, we're going right down to the bottom, then we gotta buy a big truckload. They can split a load possibly and get you what you want at the right price. If you gotta wait to get a lower price to get a tank, you could run out of fuel. So it's a more consistent way of, running our fuel, so we're branded, as opposed to being out in the open market getting anybody's fuel.
Mm-hmm.
That contract comes up periodically for review as well. Is it 3 years? Does that run on a 3-year cycle?
I can't say for sure right now.
And you're talking about probably the highest grade of fuel that they use in planes too for the helicopters, so it doesn't vary much, it probably doesn't go down very much or go up very much on a regular basis.
We had to go through, there's a procedure they want that we have to meet with that. We're already there, but there's certain things they want they wanna be sure that they're getting the highest grade of, fuel there. And the processes that we do, we have to do all this testing and everything involved with that.
what is the octane for one of them?
Excuse me?
How high has it gotta be?
Was it 100?
100?
Yeah, it's 100 low lead, yeah,
100.
100 low lead. And the other's Jet A, I don't know
Yeah.
what that is, I don't know what the octane on Jet A is. The helicopter uses Jet A.
So you increased this number,
Yes, I increased this number after I read that story about Potsdam. I can't remember what I had it, but it was 80,000 last year, 130. I have an estimate of 140, and I think that is very conservative for this year.
I know we talked at one time about advertising for our fuel and stuff. Have we done anything along them lines
Other
to
than
promote it?
correct if we monitor one of the fuel websites, for example, and see something wrong, we'll correct it, but other than that, no, there's no sign or anything out
Mhm.
there.
We keep up to date with those websites. They'll call and just to keep and they'll put us on, we just got on another website, I can't think of the name of it, but a lot of the pilots use it, and they have tabs there for everything, for navigation,
Mhm.
different things that we offer, just kind of like, if you imagine a AAA thing that just tells you everything about our airport, but they call and survey for our prices. So for on the web anyway, that, people can shop around. And I think we're in that, I can't think of the name of the website, but they basically shop, they produce numbers that.
Yeah, it's got a name like 100lowlead.com
Yeah,
or something like that.
Okay.
I think another thing that has helped our fuel sales is the willingness of Darren to come in, evenings, weekends, whatever it takes, when he's required to assist in a fuel.
Yeah,
I
especially
think
for
he's
the
been,
jet.
I think he's been really, really accommodating, and that's helped our sales.
but that costs us money too.
It does, but I
Now,
think
he
it's less
gets a
than
minimum of a 4-hour call in, the time and a half, and double time, right?
2 hour.
2 hour call.
So he gets a 2-hour call in, if it's on a Saturday, it's time and a half,
Yeah.
Sunday's double time,
No, it's just time and a half.
and that costs, we bear that cost.
But if somebody calls for a large load and we know about it, we tell them there is a charge in there for that. So like if a executive jet's coming in there, we just let them know, I think it's $50, that we will tag on to that, and they don't have any problem with that,
No, they shouldn't.
no.
It's a break even for
Just
us,
to
that's all it
minimize,
is.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
a lot, but if someone pulls in at 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening and wants fuel, that, we're not gonna argue about it. Darren will just go in and take care of them.
200 gallons of Jet A is worth $1,000. It's those kind of volumes we're seeing.
Mhm. That's good.
I personally, I'd like to see some point in time if Cape Air or whatever airline we get in here can pull in to actually have a tanker truck so we can get some of that business. Because they're just, I know all the things that go with it, but that's something that,
Well, Sam, what's the difference between a fueling station that we got it's FAA approved, it's safety approved, it's got all of the stuff that's needed up there. I just wanted to say about, when you go into a situation where a fuel truck, and you know, you got a lot of responsibility there. You gotta have proper grounding, you gotta have proper people trained to run that truck. You gotta have a lot of things. It's not just the idea of having a truck because he can pull over where the passenger terminal is. You know, there's liability that hooks to all of this stuff. Now, just let me finish. I understand where you're going on that.
No, you don't yet.
Well, I wanna tell you about, there's a lot of safety regulations when it comes to having your own and manning your own fuel truck. There's a lot of things, and, you know, a fuel truck might pass inspection today, and 6 months from now, the regulation changes under certain regulations, OSHA or whatever you wanna look at, that truck's out of business. So, when you have a permanent fueling station that has the qualifications to do this, and all the obligations they need, why, I don't know why there's a hang-up on a fuel truck. I don't see where that benefits the authority. It puts a more of a cost burden on us to have that fuel truck.
Well, now, if you ask the reverse side of the argument, I don't disagree with what you just said, but on the reverse side of the argument is you say, all right, Saranac Lake can do it, why can't we do it? If the Pilots Association or the pilots of Cape Air say, wait a second, I'm either gonna get fuel in Albany, or I don't have to get out of the plane, I don't have to go do anything, okay? If I wanna get fuel in Ogdensburg, I gotta get out of the plane, I got a taxi over there, and then I gotta do it that way. So you have to ask yourself, do you want the business or you don't want the business? I mean, so, now, when does that happen? When does the number get that you say, wait a second, I need to attract myself and to make myself a little bit more marketable, to do something a little different? Are we happy the way things are going right now? Yeah, sure, everything's just, everything's, status quo, right, Steve? I mean, we don't have to do anything extra, we don't have no truck to worry about maintenance, we don't have to labor to do that, whatever it wanna be. But, if you ask yourself the big question, am I gonna get outside the box or stay in the box, you say, wait a minute, what's the next step forward for me to become competitive? Now, we have another airline close by, or airport close by, I'm not sure exactly what Messina's proposal and what they're gonna do, but that may be, one of the things that they look at, or somebody look at and say, how am I gonna do a better job promoting my airport? So, I mean, that's the two sides, Fred, I'm not disagreeing with whatever you said. So somewhere along the line, you have to ask yourself, am I running an airport, and I got $504,000 in expenses? How am I gonna cut that? Where am I gonna go with it? That's where you guys come in. You figure that out and tell us what needs to be done next, okay? So, that's out there.
Well, in thinking in your line of trying to get more fuel sales, then we should be talking to somebody like Cape Air and asking them why they're not buying fuel here. And what can we do to get some of that business? They'll probably tell you, well, we don't fuel there because certain things come into the criteria, weight-wise for the plane, overweighting the plane with fuel, we got nowhere to dump it off, we gotta do this, we can't do that. So when we fuel it in Albany, we know just what it's gonna cost us, cause that's the price is set for the whole year. We know what it is, we have a contract there. We know the plane ain't overfueled when it gets to Ogdensburg, and it's definitely got enough fuel to get back with the approximately weight that it's gonna be carrying. So, there's so many avenues that come into the navigation of an airplane. But anyways, we'll go from there. But I think we need to talk to Cape Air or anybody that wants to do business with us and give them a real good deal. But they must be getting a good deal in Albany. But maybe they're not fueling in Albany. Maybe they're fueling in Boston. I don't know.
They could be, they do buy some fuel here.
Yeah. They have to.
And how much do they buy? Do they fill the plane or they just put enough in to get back to Albany?
Top off quantity.
I think that, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually the noon flight in good weather. They'll come over and top off, and it depends on the plane, if they've done a number of flights or whatever, but usually that doesn't mean they don't do it other times, but I usually just see it midday. They just come over and not every day either.
So I would say they don't buy a lot of their fuel, but they do buy some. So if there was a way to increase it, we should look into that for sure. The next line is other income, 80,000 versus last year's budget of 30. Some of the things in this line are the railroad. The income we get from the railroad is in other income.
What, you mentioned that, what specifically, do you recall what that is that's in there?
In the other income, I got my finger on that page, because I'm anticipating that question. 33,000 comes from the airport for facility fees, passenger fare, charges, and miscellaneous income. I haven't got that miscellaneous spelled out. 5,000 just miscellaneous from the bridge. The TSA operating income of, the operating grant of 26,000 in that line. And I put in operating grants of 5,000 because I put in a grants manager. So I thought hopefully we would get something, and I recognized some in that line.
What would they, excuse me a second, Steve, maybe you can answer the same question too, in other airlines, whatever. People come in here and just land when they wanna land, whatever. I mean, obviously they must clear the land, but does anybody, like Saranac Lake and Sienna, they charge a landing fee?
Some do in certain areas, yeah, transient hangar fees, and then also, parking and things like that, overnight parking, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you ask yourself the question is, am I gonna get fuel sales if I don't have a landing fee? Somebody's gonna say, well, they don't charge a land there, so I'm gonna get my fuel there, and whatever. I mean, so the reverse side is, oh, wait a minute, they're just landing here and do what they want, park, whatever, leave, or whatever they do, and we get nothing.
Right. A number of the higher end, like executive jets and stuff, those pilots come in and probably one of the first or second statements after fuel is, what do I have to pay you for landing or parking or all of that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part and parcel of what they do, and they're just very
Yeah.
surprised, oh, you don't charge anything, but that's, that's kind of a decision we've
I
made.
mean, is that something we should start to look at?
Well, that's something that, we've got part of the information on. We know what a fuel truck costs, we know what the lease rates are. I would suggest that we get that done up, we'll figure out what the break-even point is, and we'll bring it before the before the facilities committee
Yeah,
for further
we can just-
discussion.
Okay.
I just wanted to interrupt one thing here real quick, just to point out that Fred mentioned. Over on page 21, the railroad, that's where you'll see the $10,000 for the railroad is rolled in there. And that's the estimate of what we'll receive for or from the rail agreement.
Wow.
What did we receive this past year from the railroad?
I think we've received around 15,000. So that number is very conservative.
What was the 10,000 you said?
Railroad income from the number of cars that pass over the tracks. According to the agreement.
This year?
That'll be for the 2013, 2014 year.
The 10,000 will be.
Yeah, that's what that represents. And I
So what did
think
we get last year?
15.
If you said 15.
Is the railroad at this point giving us any financial statements that
No.
show us where the 10,000
Yes,
comes?
yes, they do, yes, and that's what we charge from,
Okay. These are internally generated?
yes. Certified by their own CPA.
We-
The co-owner?
She carries 4 different titles.
We-
She carries 4 different titles.
We have no way of checking on our own either, do we?
No,
Even we don't do anything when the cars come into the port down here. Nobody.
Only grain cars, there's an overlap there that we know we unloaded this car, but as far as like for Hoosier or anything like down the Whale or any salt car, anything below us, I don't have any insight into actually seeing, but I could, we can track what we get for grain.
Yeah, there's
That's
no
it.
independent tracking. So for example, like on the bridge, for example, we know there's a check figure that's generated by the Treadle out there that shows that there's 700,000 vehicles going across the bridge. We have no idea how many rail cars there are.
So, let me just throw something into the mix and then we'll go on with the report, Fred.
Okay.
You received double rail cars for the windmills,
mm-hmm,
260 loads. Okay,
yeah, there was 105, yes, 210 rail cars for those 100.
210.
Yeah,
Did we get paid for that?
they would be in that count, yes.
Did it be in this $10,000 count?
For the 15.
15th.
Or
15.
15?
15, yes. Well, no. No, they'd be in next year's.
That's what I
It'd be in next year's because when we get that report, it's when we'll charge them.
then
And
wouldn't
then-
So
our-
how do we know
wouldn't
that
our
we're
revenue
being
be up?
paid
Yeah, well,
for those rail cars? They're double rail cars. So there's 410 cars that come in.
In basic answer to your question, we have no idea. I mean, we accept
But today you
those-
just
we-
made a note of it.
We accept those reports at face value.
Today you made a note of it.
right.
We'll go
Well, if
from
we
there.
can't get independent financial statements, is there some kind of treadle we could install and don't have to tell them about it, just say, keeping track? I don't know what they meant, I know what we.
Not that I'm aware of, because again, a treadle on the highway makes sense, because the
Yeah.
cars are going one direction. But on the rail, you'd be counting the engine moving back and forth, anything crossing that one point in time, they're that one location on the
Four-wheelers.
track.
Snowmobiles, four-wheelers.
But
But if it was,
there's no independent audit control on that.
yeah, it seems to me there has to be something that exists that, even if it's a little flacker type of thing, as the car goes by, it just pushes this thing and clicks once. Now, I know you're gonna get a click in and a click out, and maybe the answer is you divide it by two. We used to count cars when I was in the car wash business years ago. We did it with treadles, and we knew that each car would click twice, once in the front wheel, once in the back wheel, and did the simple math, and we knew very, very closely how many cars went through that car wash that day.
We'll look
I
into
think-
that. That's
yeah,
an
we
interesting
can. I think-
suggestion.
Yeah, and I think Mary Ann Michaels pointed out when I asked those kind of questions in our meeting, that those are, the reports that they give us are something that they have to send to the Federal Transportation, something, railroad, something.
Federal Rail Act.
Yeah,
They have to.
and they have to report those, and they have to report them correctly.
That's right.
So,
So that
that's what
gives you a
she's-
degree of
yeah,
comfort.
yes, yes.
But you can get that report. You could actually get that report by going online and requesting it. And they gotta show you how many cars and stuff they have
Well,
moved.
they
on
give
this-
us a copy of that report.
Sure they will.
supposedly. Yeah, well, no, I mean, the Vermont Rail does.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to check once,
But
see
it
if
wouldn't hurt to
both
check
reports are
and
the
see if they
same.
let out a page.
That's,
I guess-
yeah. To me, I would ask, somehow I'd see if there's a way that you can get a copy of what they've recorded with, because they get X amount of money for moving those cars and reductions from the federal government.
Right. Mhm.
Now, for instance, I'm saying to you, there was 205 cars come in with windmill materials, but they were double cars. Now, are they selling us that's one car, or is that being billed two cars?
Can't answer that
We don't know
question
that.
because the report's not together yet.
But there's a recording
railroad.
somewhere that they have to do with the Rail Act to put that stuff online. They have to have that.
I guess my question would be is it, you know, our estimated income that came in this year was 15,000. And we're estimating 10,000 next year.
I
Yeah.
budgeted the same amount as we budgeted the year before.
And I'm looking at,
Yeah.
we haven't got paid yet for the 200 cars or the 100 cars coming in from the windmill.
Right.
You know, wouldn't that increase our income a
Yes.
little bit more?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yep, no question about it. But it was 10,000 the year before, I used the same number and moved on,
Okay.
without giving that a whole lot of thought. So that would be a place
Okay.
that we could add some,
No, I
Yeah.
wanna make sure I
right.
understand, we
check,
haven't got
we'll-
paid for them
Yes.
yet. and
We
it's
get the
gonna-
check, we'll know what we got.
And it's gonna come in next year.
But
Yep.
I agree with Don's thought. Some way we're gonna have to figure out a way that we can count the cars that come in and out of this port. Now, the real difference is a little different. Every time they move a car, they get X amount of money. Every time a car runs over 72 hours, they lose money. It's a very important factor of the rail system, how it works. Cars can come in and maybe they got a storage of 30 days to get the quality and the materials off that rail.
Yeah.
But then, once that deadline hits, the rail has to get that back to the main line and get it back on that main line. If they don't, then they get charged a surcharge for every day that they're late. And it adds up, it's quite a bit of money. You know, they want them cars back and they want their stuff to, but years ago, when we were pretty good of operating the rail system, we knew all that information. Today, it's like, it's a numbers game with these people. They just don't give you the proper information. But, like this gentleman says, there ought to be a way that we, as the Port Authority, which that is our revenue side of it, we need to come up with a system where we can count them cars coming in and out.
What about a digital recording system that could, there's gotta be a space on a car where there's an identification number.
Oh, they're all, yeah.
Yeah, if you video record, if you could, you know what you video recorded it coming in, with a digital system, you got hundreds of thousands of hours worth of thing, you can have it downloaded directly to here. And it can be viewed, and you can tell if a car is going in and coming out, if it's got the same number, it's going in and it's come out. And other than that, you're gonna be hiring people to go down there, which would probably be more expensive.
Right, we're talking, you know, $15,000, $25,000 worth of income. We're talking about federally controlled reports, and the cost of doing that, I don't know how cost beneficial that would be, but it would be, that would be.
To move,
something I think we
if
ought
they
to-
moved 3,000 cars in and out of the port of Ogdensburg, and they moved it on the line, and they report that to the rail act, whatever you wanna call it, the rail system, and they report that, and we can get that information. We look at our things, and they say to us, we're only paying you for 1,500,
Right.
and you're gonna say, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You recorded that you moved 3,000 cars here.
Right,
Well, the 3,000 cars we're talking about is the inn, which is the only money we get, right? Follow me?
mhm,
So if they move in 1,000 cars, we get paid on 1,000 cars, $2 say, so that's $2,000 say. Now, when they go out, we don't get anything, is that right?
No, it's basically, it's a tiered system based on the number of cars. It's, one of the break points, I think, is 1,000 or 1,500 cars, and then there's a different percentage associated with each of those tiers.
But is it just on the inbound? That's the only thing I'm,
Yeah, it has
go
to
ahead
do
with your
freight-
report.
Freight revenue.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, you get paid both ways, and a lot of
Do you?
places, it's,
Just like our planes.
you don't pay both ways, it's a one-shot deal.
Excuse me for interrupting your report.
We're only on page 2 of it now.
We're not even off, we're in the same column up here.
We're making good
4
time.
hours into it.
Well, you better order lunch and maybe breakfast.
Now we're good. In the, I'll point out in the estimated actual 2013 column, it's 121,000. One of the reasons that's up is that locomotive scrap. That was, that's in there, you know, along with,
That's in this other?
yeah, it's in that 121,000 number, in the estimated actual 2013.
Okay, and I did ask you a question about that a while ago, I wanna ask it again. Now, we basically got $30,000 from the company
Mhm.
and 30,000 in scrap.
30,000.
Well, whatever you got in scrap.
Yeah, that's what we got, was the scrap.
30.
We didn't get anything else.
You got 30,000, but you got 30,000 from the company when we scrapped that engine. Cause they didn't wanna repair the engine.
That's right.
Oh,
So
that's
they
right,
said
that's
to
right,
us-
yes, yes,
They,
yes.
they made
Okay.
that
Yes.
stipulation
Yeah.
of 60. Yes.
I'm just trying to think here, I got my
Yeah.
railroad file, I don't
Right,
wanna pull
right.
it out.
Yep.
But there's about $60,000 sitting in
Right.
escrow here, right?
No, there's nothing sitting in escrow,
It's
it's
sitting
just in our
other
general
income.
income.
But that is committed to the getting a new engine.
It's in the account with every other dollar that we have. There's no specific earmarking
It
or
wasn't
anything.
put in a.
But we have talked about that.
Yeah,
Well, I just wanna make sure I'm comfortable with this here, because here's the deal. When we told them and negotiated with them, it was very clear that they were gonna give us $30,000 certified check, cash, whatever you wanna call it, in place of not repairing the engine. We were to scrap the engine and get, they've estimated about 30,000, so we ended up with 25, whatever it is. Those monies were gonna be set as a side, it's to purchase towards a new engine.
You're correct on everything except for the set aside. It was never to be set in any type of special little escrow account or anything.
So we just,
Like that.
more or less,
Should we do that?
well, that's what my question is, we're more or less committed to make sure that we discuss it here with the financial guy, that money is to be used strictly for the replacement of that engine.
I can put it in a.
At any time, we can move it to, you know, restricted,
Replacement reserve or
Mhm.
something
Yeah.
like
you
that.
know, if we so desire. I mean, that's entirely the
Well-
board's prerogative.
If the end game is to try to buy a new engine, you got a portion of it. Not a big
Yeah.
one,
I
but
got enough for one wheel.
Yeah, right,
on
Okay,
the left
so
side of the track.
Yeah, that's.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes,
okay,
So,
yes.
I can do that.
Do
That's
you want that
fine.
in a special reserve? Is that the consensus?
well, the consensus is as long as
We know
he's gonna put it in his book, there's money there for that. I don't care if he just ledgers it.
Yeah, I'll put it.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
put a note there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's locked there,
No,
but
No.
it's there
Well, it will be if I
to
put it
be
in there.
identified as that money.
Well, that's.
For that
that's-
particular issue.
That's
Yeah.
an important point. When you
Right.
do that, it
And
does
it's the only
change.
place we can use it. If I
You know,
put
that's
it
it.
in a
Well, that was the
restricted reserve
agreement we
account.
made with the company, that's what we're gonna do. And we're still looking for an engine. And hopefully we'll be able to say, we have 60,000 here set aside for that, and this is how we come about it. And hopefully when we apply for a grant, we have that kind of a fund to match the grant, is what I'm trying to say. Does it make sense? Maybe not, go ahead.
Well, we
it works
have the
both ways.
funds, we have the funds to match regardless. So, I'll give an example. If, let's say in July, a locomotive program opens up, and we decide, to write a grant application for that. We have the ability to say, we have matching funds of X in there. It doesn't necessarily need to be in any special type of reserve.
But if we don't make a note, and he goes and I go and these folks go, and there's a new board here 2 years from now, no one's gonna know that.
That's true. That's true.
I'm just saying we
You just made
need
the
to.
argument to put it in a special
I
reserve in
wouldn't
that
be
case.
opposed at all to establishing a replacement reserve just for locomotive and commit that. And if we can add to it at different times by
Thank you.
whatever means, I think we should do
How,
that.
how would you show it right now for that 60,000? I mean, it's in the,
Right now, in
it's
our
in your fund
ledger,
balance?
right now, yeah, right now it's in other income.
Huh?
It's in
Other
other income.
income.
Yeah, and somebody could come and take our other income and that would go with it.
Well, I guess I asked two philosophical things here. One is, you wanna know if to use that, you need that money to use,
Mhm.
and you'll have the money back, but the careful thing is when you spend it,
To replace it.
it's hard to replace it. I mean, so that's the difficulty here where, but I think Fred's, Doug are in the same line of thinking is, we need to know where that money is.
And I think Don just gave us the answer, that's why he's accounting here.
What'd you say, Don?
Restricted fund.
Establishing a replacement reserve for a locomotive.
And I mean, I don't care
I'll
if
do that.
it,
That's
if
fine.
it's moved into a special fund, as long as it's noted in our books how it is. So out of this,
That's the way to
So
know
you,
it.
so you're gonna lock that money
That's-
up?
Yep,
Okay.
It's better to lock it up, Fred,
I think.
because in the swipe of a pen, you
Yeah.
may need 60 grand and it's
Yeah.
gone.
well, somebody down there,
In Albany.
where's that first guy?
Okay.
They might just, you never know what they're gonna do.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all know we're gonna need a locomotive.
Oh, we know
True.
that.
So-
Yeah,
So
we've
where will
agreed
that
on
show
that,
up in
so.
Where will that show up in here?
Yep.
It won't. It'll come out of other income and it'll go in, it'll go on the ledger as an asset.
It'll be a cap, it'll
And
be
the
a
asset
capital
as
account.
a reserve amount.
Okay.
Just for what Don said.
Yeah.
And we can add to that as we go along. For instance, the money we get from, excuse me for saying this, I don't wanna be on this, Mr. Chairman, we got $15,000 last year. As far as I'm concerned, that, maybe some of that should go in there. Because surely our engine's getting wore out. We need to put something where we can put something that we got some income from. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
For the rainy day? Because if they left tomorrow and pulled their engine out of here, me and you are gonna look pretty tired at night pulling trains.
You thought it took 4 hours to go around
The
trains?
Amish will come with a team of horses, lots of them. Moving right along.
Okay, next, interest income, I increased that, in anticipation of getting our investment program going.
One quick question on that.
Yeah.
Can we, and do we invest some of our reserves?
Some of them are invested right now, yes,
Okay, now is it,
according to policy.
alright.
Let me just expand upon that. A couple of years ago, we stopped our investment plan. We used to have periodic investment reports. We did it as a conscious decision to finance the bridge project as opposed to paying interest. On its heels, we had a couple other large things that made sense to keep doing that, so we have not restarted the investment program. We will be restarting the investment program in the upcoming year and going back to, again, I apologize, you haven't ever seen one because you're new to the board in
Yep.
that respect.
Yep.
But I think, Don, you've seen them, and I know Fred and Sam have seen them as well. We'll start doing the investment reports again, probably on a quarterly basis. That shows how those funds are invested and
what the yield
consistent
we're
with
getting
policy
back
and
on
what the
it.
yields are.
We have used that, again, to finance our portion of the port access road. Remember, you did approve a line of credit to pay those bills. I never had to use that line of credit, so we didn't pay any interest on that. But it was there to use if we needed it. But by not having the investment program going, there is some money invested in, I can't think, it's M&T Bank or something, still, but using those funds rather than borrowing has saved us more interest than we would have gained.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Smart policy.
Yeah.
2.5%.
The next line, the total income, that's up 4.8% from last year's budget, and over on the estimated side, that's up 2.2%. The salaries and wages, 1,685,000 versus last year's budget of 1,518,000, 167,000 difference. And we will see the details on that, but it's 2 new positions along with the CSEA negotiated contract difference. Employee benefits, they're up about the same as on a percentage wise as the salary and wages. We've been able to do some things there with the health insurance to cap that so that this isn't as out of control as it is in some places, employee benefits.
Fred, just to interrupt, what was the jump in ERS contribution this year? The new invoice,
Oh,
we just paid it.
yeah, actually what we paid for this year was down. And I think it was down because of the total wages rather than because the state had less to take. But it was down $40,000 from what we paid last year. We just sent a check last night.
And the new estimate is
The new estimate's back up about 35,000.
Okay.
It's up quite a bit, as a percentage, it's.
Right.
Yeah. It's, your benefit package is like 57% of your wages, though.
Right. Yep. Maintenance, 395 versus 379 last year, and 388 estimate.
That's labor, right?
No.
And materials, or is that
No,
just?
that labor's all up in salaries and wages. This is all, and we'll get to that, we've got all the details.
Okay.
But it's parts,
Okay.
things like that. Bridge painting and repair, again, we'll look at the details of why that went from 31 to 52. Probably easier to, if there's questions about that, to ask those questions when we get to that page. Bridge safety, last year we did the, what is it called, the biennial inspection. Next year we don't need that, that level of inspection.
Fred,
That's the page, yes.
would it be easier, or, I don't know, whatever, because you're spiking up and spiking down, would it be smarter to average that each year? So instead of having 150 one year and 0 the next, or whatever the number may be, would that help you, I don't wanna say be consistent with your numbers, easier with your numbers, if you average that? Is that legal, Don, to do that?
I think you could have a bridge inspection.
Legal or not, but I
reserve.
think you're trying to pinpoint as best you can actual expenses when you
Yeah.
anticipate.
Matching expenses.
But
with
when you
budget.
start doing your budget line and you get to the end, you're going, wait a minute, 150 this year and 0 next, and then whatever, it's like, so it's like,
But say next year that we're supposed to have that annual inspection done, and we look at the situation and we don't need to do it. There may be a reason, so, you might not even have to budget for it next year. It depends on how the cycle works. If we know we gotta do an annual inspection next year, you usually do what, an RFP, whatever you do on it?
Yeah.
And we get a company, this year we used,
Majeski and
Masters.
Masters
Yeah.
Majeski.
Yeah, on that 50,000, 32 of it is gonna have to be spent. It's a load rating of the gusset plates that relates to the bridge. That's something that's gonna be required. but there's a placeholder in there, I don't know if it's 15 or 18,000 for exactly what Fred's talking about.
Yeah.
What happens is the state will look at our bridge inspection, and I have to have something in there if I have to call them back. If I don't, we don't touch it, but if I do, they may call for a special emphasis inspection on something they see, say that there's a flag thing that they want us to have an engineer overlook and check. That's really just a contingency in case they have to come back, so what I do know is roughly 30 to 35 will be spent out of that, and the rest it's really up to what the state decides, but what we used to have is nothing in there, and then I'd have to come to you and go, well, we got 18,000, we need to, and we didn't budget it, and it's just all based on what Albany sees or Watertown sees on the bridge, so that's kind of something we've changed there, so it's possible that, 15 or 18 of that won't be spent, so.
Or I would just add to that, or things that are of interest to DOT, like a
Right.
couple of years ago, the gusset plate inspection.
Yeah.
We just had that was just a directive on high, going by the
We
gusset
had no
plates.
money in the budget or anything.
And the perfect example.
Are you comfortable with the 50,000, or do you
Oh,
think
easily,
it's more?
yeah.
Okay.
And,
Alright.
but like Fred's talking about, I do know that they're gonna be pushing on the, load rating of the
Mhm.
gusset plates, and I've got numbers in there for that,
Okay.
but the other end of it is, that is higher than, but it just for the unknowns, it's
Yeah,
just
I
in there.
wanna make sure
Right.
you're comfortable with that. If you
Yeah.
need more, then.
No, that's more than
Okay.
enough.
To go back to your question, though, I think what you're talking about is smoothing, and I don't think that's the best practice. I think it's best to record the expenses in the.
Yeah,
in the
especially
pay.
with this line, it jumps around depending on what the requirements are from
Okay.
year to year, so.
And it's every year we have is it every biennial,
Yeah,
every year we have the
biennial.
big one?
It's every 2 years.
So you know about when you're gonna have to put more money in.
Mhm.
You just have to go up and down.
Well, I was just thinking, because sometimes you can spend that money that that you were planning ahead to have. Like an off year, you have $100,000 more, and you go spend it, and then you realize if you average it, you really didn't have that money.
Mhm.
So that's what the defense was there.
Next line, utilities, and that's lower for a couple of reasons. One is the price of electricity is lower. The other reason is that we've made some assumptions around filling space, and we have filled space at the park, where those customers will be paying that portion of the utility bill. And you can see that in this year's estimate, it's going to come in lower than last year's budgeted amount.
We had a brief conversation, it seems like we're gonna drag this meeting out, whatever, questions, whatever, but we got talking about the bridge and changed the lighting from mercury vaporized to LEDs, and the example I had was the Verzano Bridge, which they cut their costs by 73%. And you say, okay, that's, and you don't have labor costs changing bulbs and stuff on a regular basis. I know there's a bulb out now, but it's one of the things that's, we were just briefly talking, it's something we need to probably investigate to see exactly I know the bulbs are expensive. I know they're expensive, but on the long range of 25 years, and that's the plan they had, their energy costs over that length of time was gonna decrease by 73% by just changing those bulbs. So, brighter light, cheaper lights, less maintenance, safer, you don't have people climbing up in ladders and doing those type of things, so maybe that's something we need to really look at.
When they put the new lighting system in, did they put the new efficient bulbs in?
Yeah, they were high pressure sodium. We went, and they run at a higher, when you run everything at lower voltage, it costs you more.
Mhm.
So we run everything at, I think they're 480. Yeah, and they were high pressure sodium. They're not cutting edge,
No.
energy things, but they are the best out there for, street lighting, other than going LED or anything
Yeah.
like that. But we looked at that because that was out there, and did some of that, looking at energy versus cost, and that's what they came up with. Cause we did look at possibly, individual solar type of, lighting and even wind driven. And
Yeah.
at the time, the economics, that was 3 years ago, it was
Well, I think something we need to look at, I mean, for
an aftermarket retrofit of those heads.
And there was, I'm trying to think of, LSI Industries in Cincinnati, they did a grant with them to install the bulbs and stuff, so that was something that they did.
When you looked at it, Steve, was there a huge difference in the price between what we have and like the LED? I mean, what, like, between the kind of lights that
I
we
don't
have?
think they're out, I don't know.
Oh,
3 years ago, yeah, it was kind of pricey, I mean, it was, and then you have to figure in energy usage and what we were paying, and it's just that,
okay.
Your initial costs are gonna be steep.
right,
No
and I
question about
think in terms, and the other thing was, if you remember when we got into that project, we never got to where we wanted to do the painting and things, and I think, to drive that, the LED issue or some alternative lighting, wasn't on the burner as was trying to get lower pricing for painting and things like that. I
Yeah.
remember we fell short on that, and I think we just kinda let that go just to try to keep that price low, for other things on the bridge, so, you know, if we'd all come in
Yeah.
within budget, we probably would've, maybe gone back and looked at that.
We have more important things at that
Yeah,
time to
yeah,
concentrate
Yeah. But remember, we really wanted the painting part of it, and there's just no way we could work that around to get that done.
Well, it's one of those things, initial investment's gonna be steep, but then you say over the spirit of 25 years.
Sure.
And I'm not sure what the technology will be after LEDs, I don't know what's
Oh, I-
next in,
yeah.
but still, no, right now, you say if I have those in there, and I'm gonna save and I don't know what the bill is, but you'd have to figure out exactly what you'd save and what you make over the long haul, I mean, that's what you do, but something to look at.
The next
Thanks,
line, in insurance, we'll get to that detail page there on 34 and 35, but what I did was increase, the liability and those kind of insurances, by, I think, 5%, whatever, I asked the insurance provider, that's what they said, but of course, we did do the 2-year on the bridge, which made that come up a lot less than 5%, so that's the difference there. It's up 5,000 because of increases that we expect on some of our insurances, and it's not up more than that because we did lock in 2 years on the bridge. Advertising and promotion is flat, we do have the details on that when we get to it. 143, I had an estimate of 135 that we'd spend, maybe we may spend the whole 143, I'm not sure now. Professional fees, 230, versus, 245 in last year's budget, 230 is where I think we'll finish this year. Professional fees include legal fees, some of our, contracts for, maintaining our IT and some of those things are in this line, along with our audit and things like that. Other general expenses are down, 17,000, I can't remember why that is, but we will see those details on page 40. And then the aviation fuel, up according to, the amount of the sales. That gave us a net operating profit of 1,722,000, return on expenses of 40%. Debt service requirements 1.1. Last year, they're up a little bit, and the reason that they go up, you'd think they might go down. The reason that they go up is our agreement there with the OBSI. We pay more each year, rather, more principal and more, well, not more interest, but more principal each year. Cash available for capital items is of course, doing the math, 617, about the same as last year. And then we can move on unless there's any questions on this page.
That money we just moved from the railroad fund, did that change that number there at all?
No, not unless we put a locomotive in.
No, I mean, that cash available, that's not in there. That 60,000 you talked about, does that change that number?
No, because what I'm gonna change is what we have received already. This number is a product of the budget.
Yeah,
I won't
okay.
be changing the
So
budget.
that doesn't change that, okay.
So it's just the estimated actual column will change.
Yeah, yeah. The next two pages are really the details that made page 2. Page 3 is for the port. You can see that it's, they're set up by Marine Terminal, Industrial Park and Airport. So we're seeing some details here, again, details that are in this report later on. I don't know that we wanna spend a lot of time on this page or the next page, but the next page is the bridge details. So these two pages added together equal page 2. But there is the details here. So if we wanna take a quick look and see if there's anything that jumps out at you, other than that, we'll move on to page 5. And page 5, unless there was questions. Page 5 is the bridge traffic revenue. For the budget purposes, I estimated a 6% increase per month for the rest of this year, starting in November. I can tell you right now that that estimate is low, because in November, we were up 20%. And then for 2013-14, I estimated a 5.5% increase in traffic.
What does our competitors charge, Wade? Are they pretty close? TI and Messina? TI just changed their rate, yeah, TI just changed their rate.
Came up to ours.
They're up to ours?
But I'm not familiar with when we get into the commercial vehicles and things.
Okay,
So we'll get that for you, Sam.
okay.
So,
That's not anything you're looking at, I guess that's the
Yeah.
question, the rate
Sure.
changes, you're satisfied with those numbers, what we charge?
We don't have a choice in that regard, because the next time we go to do any type of toll increase, there is a set of policies and procedures in place that it's virtually impossible to get any type of toll increase through. That will be you've hit on something that's a long-range problem for us.
Oh, really, I didn't know that, okay.
It requires all the approvals it required previously when we went through it a couple of years ago. Plus now it requires concurrence from the Canadians as well, as part of the regulatory process involved with the bridge. So it's a pretty complex process. It's been some time since we talked about that. I will put together some sort of synopsis on that to familiarize you with that, but.
I mean, if we have a fair toll, is that the way, okay, I mean, that's all you can really ask, if it's fair, you know, within reason, whatever, but,
And
your
Tisha,
people around you.
help me out with the history. The last time we did the toll increase prior to the one we just got through was 15, 18 years, something like that.
No,
It was a long time.
we did one in, I'd have to look up the dates, but it wasn't quite that long.
Okay.
6-7
So
years ago?
we did other change, every time we do that, we have to publish in the it's a 6-month process, just paperwork alone.
You see where that new system's gonna come in play for you, you won't have to worry about it, push a button and there it is. But what he's saying to you, every time we put in for one, they were a year and a half ahead of us, and Messina was a year and a half ahead of us.
Yeah,
We were trying to do the same thing at the same time, less money than what they were doing. We still couldn't get it done, and we were a year and a half later before the governor approved all of the bureaucrat systems that we had to go through to get this increase that we got. And we're still at a break-even situation. So, when you put all of the cost that costs us to run that thing,
so the only thing you really change is what the fair exchange is on Canadian money.
that's about all you got right now. And then with the new regulations, and I haven't seen them all, and I don't think anybody else has seen them, is now the Canadians are gonna have an input on if we can increase our tolls. We may be told you can increase them on the Americans, but you can't increase them on the Canadians. Good luck.
I'll point out a couple things on this page. One, you'll see the percent change varies from 4.99 down through to different, you know, and the reason for that is I increased autos by 5.5 and I increased trucks, I believe, by either 1/4 or 1/2%. So that's why this isn't 5.5, it's closer to 5%. I also, when I first did this chart, I did it with September numbers without October's, and I did update this for October actuals, and in my note, you will see that it says for traffic April through September, that should say April through October, November through March is forecast. But it is October actual. I went down and changed the note, but I only changed the November part, not the September, so I apologize for that. Also, I would say that when I did this in September, the average fare that we were collecting per vehicle was $296. It's a little bit higher than that now. So this number of $2,415,000 is conservative. Page 6. Oh, is there any question?
Yeah, the only question I have is, it's really more of a comment than question. It goes back to it, Wade, and we talked about how you're weighed on one side of the bridge, you're not weighed on the other side. And I still am somewhat intrigued by that. And one of the things that, again, I researched what they do on certain bridges, whatever, is if I know, we'll just say, Jones's trucking goes across and he's overloaded. Either then I can call the troopers and have them do whatever, that's what they did, or they were disallowed to ever cross that bridge again. Now, I'm not sure it's the policy, whatever, but I still kind of question how you can be overloaded one way and you can go wherever you want the other way. And that just intrigues me, whatever, in this process, that we spent a tremendous amount of money in this bridge to rehab it, to bring it up to all the codes it needs to do, and I mean, you stop and think, you take 3 of those trucks that are overloaded and they're right next to each other going across. And I know we do the best job we can to monitor those type of things, regards, but still in all, that doesn't seem fair. It just doesn't seem fair why somebody goes through all the steps in the process and procedures on one side, and the guy on the other side just goes loosey-goosey through, whatever. And I'm not sure exactly that does happen. Maybe I would just say the trucking industry is honest and sincere, and they tell us that it's gonna be overloaded both ways. I don't know that, but that still intrigues me how you can do that. So I don't know if else got a comment to that, or what we can do or not do, but that just, I find it hard to swallow.
What happens if a truck is over our weight limit?
Well, the only thing I would add to that is our weigh and motion scales measure on northbound only.
Yeah.
So on northbound only, if they're overweight, they're gonna see it at the booth.
And what happens if
Southbound,
I'm overweight going north?
You turn them around.
you turn them around at the
You
booth.
go right out,
That's
that's why we have the lane that goes over the.
So
other
they're
side.
not allowed to cross?
Right,
So there's no, say I'm allowed 90,000,
or whatever per axle, how your configuration is, yeah.
whatever, and I'm over by 10. So you're telling me I get turned around, or do I pay extra for that weight?
They're just
Turn 'em
instructed to turn them around, just can't go on.
Turn
Can I
them
say something? The state police are at our bridge. They have a presence here quite a bit. They do monitor, and I do know that if they're caught, they get fines. And on top of the fines, New York State also has some type of fee that they charge them
Yeah.
once the ticket has been presented. But they do have a presence at our bridge quite often. So they are watching.
That's this
And
way.
that's our
Oh,
deterrent
right,
on the
wrong direction.
southbound.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
That's deterrent on the
That's southbound you're
Yeah.
talking about,
They come in, they inspect all, they're over in that parking lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, it's more regular hours, Wade, you can see,
What
right?
parking lot?
The border
Immigration
station.
building.
Border station right
Yeah,
there.
but they already crossed the bridge.
No.
No.
Oh, yeah,
That's
coming
exactly
in,
right.
yeah.
How come they already crossed the bridge? Thank you very much.
Preventative wise, if they know they're gonna get inspected by a state police guy, they're in for all kinds of things.
Okay, I mean,
No, it doesn't stop exactly what you're talking about, you're right. And that's the ray in motion was, that's, as far as we know, from what we've seen, we don't hear that or whatever, the overweight, but the idea that we're keeping an eye on things kind of keeps those people that think they can get across. But before we did that, I'd hear rumors from TI saying, the truckers down there would be saying, oh, it's easy to cross Ogdensburg, just what you're saying, but I think DOT, state police have stepped up their inspection in the last, 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
And then our way in motion has reduced all of that. It doesn't totally eliminate it, but it's a kind of, we feel it's a deterrent.
okay, let me see if I can understand this process. Truck A is coming this direction. John O'Grady's in the booth, whatever. Boop. There's some meter comes off and tells
Yeah,
him
it's right
exactly.
there, yeah.
All right, he gets, a number comes up automatically, car, whatever it wanna be. He looks at the truck coming, here's the weight coming, correct?
Yep.
He knows, right? Truck goes by, he's fine, he meets the weight limit, and away he goes. Truck B's coming this way. He goes, pays his toll, whatever.
Right.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Fine. he goes over the scales, and John says, "Oh my
Which
God,
scale? Going that way?
Doesn't go
There's
over
no
scale
scale
in
down there.
southbound.
there's nothing in the southbound."
What?
Oh my God, he makes me feel worse.
No, but the other end of it is,
Why?
most of them, there's DOT and the state troopers are up there in the parking lot
So when they come off the bridge,
during
Southbound.
trucking hours, like say from
Yeah.
10 a.m. till 8 at night. They're up there. So when a truck comes, they come right out of the Bacchus and they come right over here. They go through the truck.
They weigh them.
They can weigh them. They can do anything with them.
so the heavy loads come in at midnight.
Yep, after hours.
Yeah.
When they come in.
They do
But
do
they go,
after
but
hours.
still, no, they're coming
Do they?
across.
Yeah, if they
I'm
have
talking.
suspicion, they've been in here at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
Right.
But my point is, you protect your investment.
Right, but
Okay, they're coming across, okay, and let's stop and think about it. It's like, okay, here comes 3 trucks going across. And you're on that bridge, Steve, a lot. That baby's a weaving and waving,
Right.
okay? It's taking the stress, okay? And we show, okay, in some of the things that happen here. I mean, this bridge is scaled and rated pretty good, but you still know you're putting stress on that bridge, okay,
Well,
without monitoring.
what I'm saying, we're putting a lot less stress than we used to, because
I do
We reduce that.
believe that, I do
Yeah.
believe that, and, you know, but I'm just
Well, we
saying is,
can't
how
avoid-
how do we take this to the next step? I guess that's my.
You'd have to
It's
do it
the
on the
Cana-
Canadian
it's the
side.
Canadian-
Absolutely, no
You could-
question about
Canadian
that.
side, that's,
the other end of it
we
is you
can't
could,
control them.
you could put your another weigh in motion on this side and remotely, set it up like we do here, but in that case, the troopers they'd have access to either one and they could find somebody there, but it doesn't go to what
But
you're
that
talking
doesn't
about.
benefit us.
No, it still doesn't keep them off the
It
bridge.
doesn't
Heavy
help the
load.
Yeah,
bridge.
they're already
But they
they're
already know
crossed.
that, no, at least they know something's there, they can
Well,
get
they don't
caught.
care about an overweight
Well, you
ticket.
would know, right.
They don't care about that. That's
Yeah.
nothing. I'm going through the load. Come on, let me go.
That guy
Give
up
me the
there,
ticket.
that guy up there in 37 is hauling them over right by the dome there.
Yeah, but they're the ones, as like Tisha says, they're gonna make a little bit of money off in that. They pay them every month. You know, I don't know what to tell you about
Other
that.
than,
They weigh
when
the
Steve
you
was
wanna
telling
stop
me-
them over there, you'd have to have a toll booth and you'd have to have a presence there and say, you're overweight, go, turn around.
So what
and
is
go.
our weight limit?
It's 90,000.
90,000. What happens if I got 7 Exos?
Well, whatever if your setup, if your configuration and your weight distribution works, you can go up to, and then we get into permitting at what, late?
105.
105. But then they have to come to us for our own permit with
And
their
we charge
access
for that.
setup. Yes,
Okay.
right?
No, we don't
Up
charge.
to, only, go
And
ahead.
New York State does, the New York State troopers, anytime that they, and I've
No, no,
received-
take them out of the picture. I don't wanna know about that. I'm talking about our own northbound scales. I'm now over the 90, which I'm allowed.
Right.
Now it's 105, which I can come in here.
With a-
What do I pay for that other?
Nothing.
No, no.
Why?
Oh, you pay a bridge toll, that's it.
Yeah, per your axles, you pay extra for
Fred,
your
I think,
axles.
I think it came up before in the same policy to change bridge tolls, that all falls in that same policy. In order for us to all of a sudden start assessing charges for permits, we have to go through that same bureaucratic process to put that in our toll schedule. I think that's where that sat many years ago, that's why they never did.
So the only one that gets anything out of this or at all is if we have a state trooper out here issuing tickets to the trucking companies from Canada, saying you're overloaded by 30,000, here's what the fine is. It's already set, statute, send us a check.
If they're over width?
He sends them on the road. He doesn't take them off the road. He doesn't say you can't do this, you can't do that. They just go on. They might not get another overload ticket down in Syracuse.
Right.
Right.
Freddie, you know the guys we used to run in Potsdam and Canton, the overload was just a matter of doing business. Question on what.
Throw it on the dash. Throw it on the dash. And then we had to pass legislation that the driver's not responsible for the company's overloaded tickets because our drivers lost their driver's license.
Yeah, that's-
Oh, nightmare. My question would be this. We set the policies for our bridge crossings. My thought is this. The legal weight is 90,000. Now we have a truck going across it.